Good evening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. We'd like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us here on Hilaal TV, TSTV channel 347. Last week, Wednesday, the South African members of the global Sumud Flotilla landed back home. This was, of course, a week after they tried to break the illegal Israeli siege to deliver aid to Gaza. They were part of the massive convoy that was attempting to break that very same siege. What we saw, of course, was the interception of their vessel and, of course, their holding up as hostages in the Israeli prison facilities. Joining me today is one of the members of the South African Global Sumud Flotilla. She joins me to discuss, of course, the build-up to the mission, her activism in terms of the solidarity for Palestine, but, of course, what had transpired in those Israeli prison cells. It's none other than Zukiswa Wanner. Zukiswa, good to have you on.
Thank you for
welcome back
me.
home. Welcome back home.
Thank you for having me, Faraz.
Yeah,
I don't know whether I deserve a welcome back home. We didn't fulfill the mission, so I'm still feeling very disappointed.
Well, I think the fact that you attempted to do what you guys did, I think deserves credit. It deserves the applause that you got. And of course, I know this has happened while the ceasefire was agreed upon, and of course, there's so many negative aspects to it, but we'll break that down further. Zukiswa, of course, this started not just last week or the week before. This was a build-up from September. You told me of 30,000 citizens across the globe.
30,000 people across the globe.
And then you were there. Yeah.
To
how did it feel at the time to know that you were going?
Well, it was very, the energy was absolutely palpable, you know. I remember it was my son who recorded the video of, or if you are watching this, then I've been kidnapped by the IOF and stuff. Yeah. It was, my son who recorded that before I'd even departed. So I realized that, yeah, there were possible dangers to it. But equally, I felt like my hands were tied as a member of as a citizen of the globe, as a global citizen. I felt my hands were tied, like we had taken part in protests, we had written letters, and I just felt like I can't sit and watch children starve. I can't sit and I can't live in a world that's okay with this, you know?
And the thing is, Zukiswa, you've been outspoken in terms of solidarity for Palestine for a very long time. So this wasn't just, oh, I think let me go and do this flotilla so it gives me great PR. You've been there. You've been there to go ahead and actually have this voice for the people of Palestine. This is not just something you started yesterday. You've been doing this for a very long time.
Well, yeah, no, I pretty much was raised believing that we're always going to be like, we're allies of Palestine and all the people that are under colonization and, you know, and my parents were really big on speaking up against any form of social injustice. So they raised me to be like that. They raised my cousins and I to be like that.
Zukiswa, the training to the build-up to obviously the departure, because I remember speaking to you before you left. I spoke to Dr. Hendricks, Dr. Suma, and obviously there was all this induction and that. But that mental preparation and the actual physically being there on that vessel must have been a completely different experience altogether.
I don't think anything quite prepares you. Yeah. We did the preparations. They told us everything. But I think if you recall, even from that conversation, I was that one person who was saying, we're going to Gaza. There's no other talk, nothing else, you know. So, and it helped that everybody I was on a motorboat, and it was, I was one of 15 people. And everybody on that boat, we had this particular conviction. And I remember sitting and one evening, earlier parts, and we say, you know, trying to get to know each other, and we say, you know, so what led you to take part in this and finding out and getting to know each other. And it was just a beautiful group of people, you know. I consider each and every one of them my brothers and sisters. And just hearing their stories and hearing their things about their families. So everybody, you know, we had a duty roster who's going to clean, who's going to cook and whatever. It's a duty roster we never really needed.
Okay, so you had some chores also to do.
Yes, but everybody was picking up from each other and whatever. And I remember Captain waking up where we ran out of. Well, of course, bread is going to get bad because we're at sea for X amount of time.
Course, yeah.
But we had flour, and some of the flour we're going to be taking to Gaza, you know. And he's like, no, let me show you how we make bread at sea. So this is the guy who would make every morning. He's, you know, he's at the stern, and but every morning he'd also wake up and make bread, and then you'd have people like Riaz Mullah, and he'd wake up and he'd do the dishes, and you know, even when we're like having, because generally he'd be my partner at night watch, you know, so where would be, oh, how many drones have we spotted today, type of thing. So it was really like a family, you know, and tight knit, but the biggest thing that united us, I remember on Wednesday before we got intercepted, we got intercepted on Thursday morning.
Yes, yeah.
And we're like 28 nautical miles from Gaza.
You could see Gaza.
We couldn't see it, but we're like, it was just as dawn was breaking, you see. One of our members had just finished the Fajr prayers. So she came in and she's like, they're here. And we're like, oh, flip.
Yeah.
And we yelled out, Captain, how far are we?
Yeah.
Like 28 nautical miles, you know? So we're very upset.
Nearly there, yeah.
Yes.
Zukiswa, you met people from all sectors, whether it was from the entertainment, I think Susan Sarandon was there, you got Diego Alvear from Brazil, Greta Thunberg, okay, she's been on a previous flotilla, I think she was with Madeline.
Tiago has been on a previous one as well.
He's also been on one. Liam Cunningham, stand to be corrected, he was there.
I didn't see him.
Because for people who don't understand, there were many vessels, so it wasn't like you know, you could see everyone there. But I mean, to be part of what you were, how did it feel at that time that it's now a global effort to break this illegal siege?
It just felt like such a wonderful thing to be part of, because it also happened around the time that the United Nations General Assembly was happening. So we felt like we're the true United Nations, because this is the world saying the leadership has failed. What we're doing was something that governments should have said. You know, Israel is full of impunity. They're not permitting. They're not allowing food. We can't be watching people starve. We can't be allowing. You know, you think something as minute as dhania, coriander.
Yes.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal in Gaza, and so it was like, you know, chocolates, stuff like that, like little things. And so it just felt like I was part of this big part of a whole. But, you know, that's where you also realize that so often when we're sitting in our spaces, we think, I'm all alone, you know. I can't believe this is happening, and we get depressed and stuff. But there were so many of us who were feeling the way I was feeling, you know, that like maybe I need to do something, and everybody else saying I need to do something and I need to do something. And I think the biggest thing that I came out with from there, in addition obviously to feeling like failure, and I'll tell you, you go and say, oh yeah, but you did this, was as you already said, but you know, I grew up at a time where you didn't celebrate getting to class, you celebrated being number one.
Exactly, yeah, 100%, yeah.
So you know, just being part of that taught me something, and it taught me that you know, at heart, human beings are good people.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good people. We're seeing a lot of evil being perpetrated in our names, but at heart, the average person is like, no, this is not okay. And I think if we come out in numbers, as people did at that time, as people continue doing, there is a chance. I think I keep saying that we're at a pivotal place in the world, but there is a chance that we don't fall over the precipice and we actually right ourselves and we become a kinder and gentler and more humane world where everybody is my neighbor. And I think that's possible.
Yeah. After the break, I'll continue my conversation with Zukiswa Wanner. We're still talking about her mission as being part of the South African team for the global Sumud Flotilla. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to News in Focus. So Zukiswa, you're in this vessel. Talk to us about what this vessel is, the pros and the cons. Seasickness, what do you do in the vessel? Because for the context, this isn't an MSC cruise ship.
No.
This doesn't have water slides, it doesn't have a restaurant, it doesn't have a king-size bed. Tell us about it.
So heavily, I was journaling on it quite a bit as I was traveling. We were 15 on the boat. That's 4 crew members and 11 of us. We had, 3 rooms underground, one for the crew and 2 with 2 beds. So we used to have to like sleep in,
so no one's sleeping at the same time.
So,
Everyone's
you'd have 4 people sleeping at the same time, and then there's another 4.
Okay,
So,
right,
yeah.
okay.
So and then because you've got 4 crew members, 2 at one time and then 2 at another time. So when the other ones are controlling the ship, the other 2 are down. So and then 4 people and then 4 people again. At any given time with the sleep, and then somebody has to sleep during the day, type of thing for a certain
So
length.
which one did you choose?
No, we didn't have a choice. It would be like we kept rotating,
Okay.
So
but are you a night sleeper or a day sleeper?
I normally work from 2 a.m. to 6 in the morning.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. But sometimes I'd have like night watch.
Okay.
So it depended, and then we had like the duties of like cooking and cleaning, and of course, as I mentioned, night watch, and we're washing dishes with water from the ocean because there's limited. Each of us had like 1.5 liters of water per day, so we had to put our names on the water every day. And then you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the next time I have to have water and stuff. I'm happy that like I drink plenty of water, and Riaz doesn't drink as much water, so he allowed me to drink some of his water most of the time, which was a relief. Just generally like the different duties and taking care of certain things. So it was very, very tight, and 2 things can happen when you're in such a tight-knit space. You either can get into a lot of conflict, or you just really become very close, like family. And I think what happened to us was like, we're like family. Everybody was referring to each other as brother and sister. Now, you also imagine that there's waves. So there was seasickness. The first day, we left at about 4, and everybody got seasick. And the captain, in his wisdom, bless him, after 2-3 hours, he realized everybody is so sick. He drove back to port, but he made us sleep on the ship so that we'd get used to the motion of the ocean.
And that's important, I'm assuming.
Yes. And then he woke up, like the very next morning at 4, he set sail, and we managed to join everybody else 2 days later. We're literally the last boat out of port. This was also, and it's very important to acknowledge this, South Africa had its own boat thanks to our donations from this country. So we had our own boat. So Riaz and I were on the South African boats.
Okay. Were all the South Africans on the South African boat?
No.
So it was Dr. Sumar,
and Dr. Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks were on a different boat. And Mandla was on a different boat.
Okay.
So we're all on different boats.
Okay.
But Riaz and I were on the South African boat. We're the last one out of port. And Oh, and because it was a small boat, you'd have like all these waves, right? And so one day I had dinner duty, and we were. And I needed to go and get I was like, okay, I need to just zhuzh up the food a little bit, right? And I went downstairs because I knew I had a packet of soup.
Okay.
And I asked one of the people on the boat to if you can just hold the pot, as you know.
Yeah.
And I came back and it had fallen.
Oh my
and
gosh,
and it was I was so I was so infuriated. I was like, oh, what are we going to do? And then one of the but I couldn't be mad at him because he's such a sweet old man, and he loves Ghassan Kanafani, who's my favorite one of my favorite Palestinian writers. So I was just I wanted to
the patience part, Zukiswa, you're speaking, was that a mental challenge for you, and how did you have to deal with it? Because patience is important. If you didn't have patience, I would like to assume there is no way you're managing on this.
I know. So that was actually very interesting, because when I saw that it happened, I remember one of the crew members, one of my brothers, said, "Sister, it's not a train smash.
Yeah.
We can still eat the food." So what I did is picked up what I could, and then I looked at the other guy. I said, "Can you just go and get a mop?" So that whatever. So, and then we just warmed it up. I still zhuzhed up, and then we had, and then dinner was served. And then I just said to these guys, I need to go downstairs for a little bit. And I went downstairs, and because I just needed time alone, I didn't want to burst up, And then I came back, and I had a conversation with somebody else. And they said, oh, yeah, no, they had to take this guy out who had been holding, and they had to put something on them, some salve, because they got burnt when the pot thing.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, the fact that this mistake happened and it was a wave and they spilled, that's not the thing. The most important thing is this person is okay. So, you put perspective, and then you're like,
it's the material over, the human life over material.
Yeah, I was being very petty, and people can actually eat, and we're fine. And it's not like it fell down and then it's got poisoned and whatever.
Sure.
We're able to rescue this, so it's not an issue.
So, I want to talk about this mission and the aims of it, of course, that breaking of the illegal siege.
So there's been a siege,
but how important is it from the historical aspect that people knew that going in here you had the risks, but it was a bigger mission than what one would have expected, and what we see in Gaza, no matter how small or big it was seen in the eyes of the global community, that attempt to break that illegal siege was going to happen.
Yeah. Listen, this thing has been going on since for 18 years. And what we're doing was we're going according to international law and maritime law. We're allowed because, the waters of the Mediterranean around where Gaza is actually belong to the Palestinians.
Yes.
So this is international waters, and it was important. There have been previous attempts at breaking the siege before. There have been very few that have been successful, but there have been some that have been successful. And that's what we need to look at when we think about precedent. And so now you had a call out, and there were, many more boats and many more countries coming on board. And it just felt like we need to do this. And because we've been watching this thing happen, we've been, the concerns initially had been hit. Freedom Flotilla, the Handala, the Madeleine had just like this year alone. But now what was happening with this, this was coming in the wake of, the global march to Gaza that happened in Egypt. And which was stopped by the El-Sisi government in Egypt. And that had 4,000 people. Now, this time around, Global March to Gaza and Freedom Flotilla and and then they all came together for the global Sumud Flotilla. And now you are having all these boats and you're having all these countries. So essentially, I was telling you earlier that 30,000 people from across the globe applied to be part of this because so many people were being devastated by what they were seeing, by starvation, by the fact that there were no medications in hospital, by the fact that there was no baby formula available. I remember talking to one of my friends in Gaza, Suleiman, and he's got young children, and he was telling me that diapers were going for $50 a packet, you know, that type of thing. Where are people supposed to find $50 for a pack of diapers, you know? And so it just felt like something that had to be done, and I really believe that we would succeed. Because, as I mentioned, I don't try anything if I don't think I'm going to succeed.
Well, you say you want to be number one in the class. But Zukiswa, after the break, we have to touch on, obviously, the arrest. Because I think that's what people want to hear from you, from a first-hand account witness. And that's where we're going to be touching on after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to News in Focus. I'm still in conversation with Zukiswa Wanner, who was the South African member of the global Sumud Flotilla. Right, Zukiswa? The Israeli Navy spots your vessels or the other vessels that are there. There are drones hovering around. They come into your boat. They take you. What happens?
Well, firstly, they teased us. They come on a Wednesday evening and they put a whole lot of water on us. So we assume that they're coming. When they're within 200 meters, one of the guys on our boat takes our phones and drops them in the water. Okay. So as far as our family members were concerned, they thought we'd already been captured. Okay. But they only intercept us in the morning on Thursday. Yes. And the bilge pump in our motorboat was not working. So Riaz and Mohammed Murad and Ashraf were busy taking water out with a bucket so that it wouldn't flood the engine. And we are like, we're going on. But when they finally intercept us and they come up, they have guns, they tell us to put our hands up. We decide, we decided as a boat we weren't going to surrender, but what we'll do is we'll do this, because this is surrendering, but this shows that we don't have any weapons, but we're not surrendering anything to you.
Did you not feel afraid at the time?
Because no.
This is the Israeli army we're talking about.
Yes, it is, but we've also seen them whining. So, so we did this. And we're told to keep our heads down, so we kept our heads down. Then they told us to get out one by one. We got out, we went to the ball, and we sat there and we decided we weren't going to tell them that we actually had a problem with the bilge pump. It was their boat now, So a little while later, it got flooded, and the engine cut off, and so now they had to shoot up flares so that they could come and be rescued with us.
The Israelis.
Yes.
Who would have thought? Yeah? Who would have thought?
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I'd been calling this boat, I'd been calling our boat, because it was South African, I'd been calling it the Mandy Reincarnated. And my little joke was in my journal entries that prior, the other Mandy was going to serve Empire, but this Mandy was fighting against Empire. So, our Mandy Reincarnated served very much with honor because it started drowning, so they had to be rescued and rescue us with that, and we ended up getting on the Israeli naval boat, but and then later on the naval ship, and then again on the naval boat. But Mandy served with honor and became a martyr instead of being captured. Yeah,
wow. The prisons.
Yeah,
I listened to I think all of the testimonies. For me, Dr. Hendricks' was probably more daunting, more disturbing, sickening to a certain extent, to think women would be treated like that. How bad was it?
You know, it was bad, but I am very aware because in 2023 I was in Palestine, and I did talk to like a lot of the lawyers and stuff. So I know, you know, we were like 490 something. There are still like 11,000 Palestinians who are hostages in Israeli prisons, and 400 of them are children. You know, and this is for something as simple as like throwing a stone, then you're considered a terrorist and you can be held on administrative duty forever. So they keep increasing it without you going to court. So with that knowledge in mind, for me, I felt like we were treated like a little bit better than the Palestinians have had to go through. That doesn't mean we're treated rightly. A lot of times we weren't allowed to see lawyers. We didn't get to see our lawyers. I think I'm the only person from the South African delegation who actually saw a lawyer. And
that is from Adala.
Adala, yes. Yeah. And that was only when I entered. And I only saw that lawyer because I said to this woman that I wanted a lawyer. And then I just happened to see an Adala person as they were coming. And I said, I need you. And they said, because this woman kept saying, where's your lawyer? You're saying you've got a lawyer. Where's your lawyer?
This is the Israeli woman.
This is the Israeli interrogator. And I said, oh, there's my lawyer, you know. And immediately, because I recognized her from the images, she sat with me. And while they were doing the interrogation, I answered a few questions. Is this your first time in Israel? And I said, this is my first time involuntarily being... the last time I came, I did so voluntarily, you know, but this time around, I've been kidnapped on international waters, which of course was an annoying response. Yes, yeah. And then they put us we're cable tied, we're taken to you know, Kitsiot.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
we're taken. We've left now.
From
we're leaving
Ashdod.
Ashdod.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're taken to Kitsiot prison, which is in the Negev desert. You know, and it's really disturbingly close to Gaza, where we're imprisoned.
You mentioned in the press conference, Gaza is around the corner.
Yes. Well,
you were close from the boat, but you're probably closer from a prison.
Exactly. And we got there, and when we arrived there, they put us in these cages. They put us in these cages and...
Cages, like an animal.
Yes. They put us in these cages, and it was hot, and they called us one by one, and then we had to take off, strip off our clothes, and then put on the prison issue clothes, which I think at the press conference you saw we're wearing some of them. Yeah. And in this prison issue clothes, then I am not Muslim, but the Muslim people got off really badly because they wouldn't even allow them to wear their hijab. So they had to wear...
I listened to Dr. Sumar and Dr. Hendricks' testimony. And that's the reason why I found it sickening, I found it disturbing that this is what they could do. Yeah.
I had, when I went to change, there was a woman, and that's probably where the number 351 is very, very relevant, because I think there was a woman who's Canadian Egyptian, and she was 353 or 354, and she said, I am not going anywhere. I'm not going out without my hijab. You've taken my hijab. And they said to her, no, you need to put on, you need to go. And she said, no, I'm not going out. And the soldier was talking to her, had, you know, you've seen those Zionist TikTok girls that have like the Botox lips and whatever. I call her Botox Betty in my head. But so she was the one who was like, no. And I was there, and there was Iqbal from who was 352 from Turkey, and she was also like wearing a hijab, and she'd been told to take it off. But the moment that Rababi, I think her name is, from Egypt, said, I'm not going out there without my thing, and we were waiting for bigger sizes tracksuit. then Iqbal was also like, I'm not going. And that actually spurred on a revolution, because thereafter,
So
everybody
within the
else...
prison, you could see something happening.
Everybody then was whatever. So they took us out, then they put us... then they put us in another cage. Then they put us in our rooms. And in my cell, I had... we were 10 of us. There were only 5 mattresses. No, I think there were 7 mattresses initially, but 5 sleeping places. And we made a noise for 3 extras, because we're just like a bunch of ungovernable people. You know, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be a guard with our cell. You know, we were sitting there, and they'd come every 2-3 hours. They'd come and they'd want to count us. And at some point in time, we're like, no, we don't want. They were like, get up, go to the back. We want to count you. The first day we allowed them to do that to us. The second day we said no, and they said, what do you mean no? And I said, what are you going to do? Arrest us? Jail us?
Your resistance, were you not afraid, because Israel has a long history of
racism.
Using, not just racism, using force. Were you not afraid?
I think I wasn't, you know. I think we'd got to the point where we're just reckless, you know. And because in my cell, we're 10 of us, and 7 of us were on hunger strike.
Right.
We say we're not eating your food. Take it to Gaza, you know. And but we're also like really like, oh, these guys are shady. What if they poison us? Type of thing, right? So we were not. I think we're just like, no, we're not allowing. And then we just also like kept singing. And there's nothing that offends the Zionists as much as saying from the river to the sea. Yes. And we kept repeating that, free Palestine from the river to the sea.
I heard
whatever.
Mandla Mandela obviously mentioning that in the press conference. One final question before we go to the break, Zukiswa. Of course, Turco, various authorities negotiate to come back to the country, but being in those prisons, to what extent did you see the level of, when we speak of Zionism, we don't experience it in terms of first-hand accounts. How did you experiencing it from first-hand accounts?
So the people who were in my, who were at Kitsiot at that time were just people from the global Sumud Flotilla. But we got an experience of the Palestinians having been there. One of the most heartbreaking, and I keep recounting this, is my name is this, I'm from this particular thing. Today is the 28th of September. They are moving me from this particular jail cell, but I don't know where they're taking me. Today is also the day where the Zionist government has just said it's okay to have death penalty against Palestinians. That really hits hard when you read that, where we could see messages, my name is this, I'm from Jabalia camp, my name is whatever, I'm from Khan Yunis. So it was that like we were there with, we might not have been there physically, but the Palestinians were there with us in spirit. They left little, you know, nails for us to be able to like scratch messages on the wall and mark certain things. There were like little gifts almost, like gifts of solidarity. No, they might not have known that it was us coming, but they knew that there would be other people imprisoned in this place, and we tried to do the same thing as well when we left. Yeah.
After the break, I'll wrap up my conversation with Zukiswa Wanner. After the South African team coming back, what is the way forward now in the post-genocide Gaza, of course, as the ceasefire has taken effect? Do stay tuned. Welcome back to News in Focus. Well, as the ceasefire takes place and the release of the captives back to Israel, and some, what many are saying, close to 10,000 Palestinian hostages, which will be freed from the prisons in Israel, will also take effect. What is the way forward in terms of Gaza? Zukiswa, we're at a moment right now where many are calling it a neo-colonial phase from Gaza, because Tony Blair is about to come into some sort of quote-unquote viceroy role. I don't know what it is, but he's going to be having a leadership role within Gaza. Many analysts that I've brought have said this is not a good idea. I'm one of those who think, why is Tony Blair there? Because have people forgotten about Iraq and Afghanistan? What's your take on where we are right now in this, Zukiswa?
Firstly, the butcher of Baghdad should actually be right now in The Hague.
I agree.
He should have been charged, whatever. So to reward him with anything, but there is no, we don't talk about anything when Palestinians are not involved. This is a peace plan where allegedly, I don't, you know, like an absence of war is not peace for us, you know, and this is something where, yes, we, of course, we know the people of Gaza are happy for the reprieve. We know from the bombing and whatever, but even as they say there is a reprieve, there is a ceasefire. We saw yesterday a journalist got killed.
Al-Jafarawi.
Yes.
That's probably the most heartbreaking story because he read something, you know, he read a prayer.
And he was waiting for his brother because his brother was one of the people that was going to be...
I don't think I've ever seen a more heartbreaking story. It reminds of Anas al-Sharif. I think you guys were in Tunis when that was happening.
No, our boat was called Anas al-Sharif.
Sharif, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a great tribute to him. But, I mean, then lies your issue that even while this ceasefire is on, there are those militia gangs that are killing people in Palestine. Yeah.
And it was... and it's reminiscent of South Africa, isn't it? Just at the cusp of... And that to me was... is heartbreaking. But you can't have... a person who's a player also become a referee, you know, which is what the United States is. The United States is the one that has been arming Israel. How then are they the ones who are, you know, the negotiator for a peace plan, you know? If something is happening, you need somebody neutral, but you also can't have that discussion without having Palestinians on the table as equal partners because it's their country. In fact, probably they should be the only partners on that table, you know what I mean? But so there is much to be said. I say, as far as I being a citizen of the world, as far as I being a humane person who exists, I say anybody who's watching this, yes, of course, we're cautiously optimistic, but until the Palestinians tell us to do so, let's continue boycotting. Let's continue pushing for divesting. Let's continue pushing for sanctions of companies doing businesses in Israel. Let's continue asking for the prosecution from the National Prosecution Authority of South African citizens who have been taken part in the genocide in Gaza. Let's not just now in this recent version, but also in the 2014 one. There are names that are provided and nobody has...
I want you to ask, Zukiswa, you've been a big vocal... you've been very vocal in calling out the MPA and the relevant authorities for that. Now, we're hearing the lip service from the politicians, but unfortunately, nothing has happened. It's a similar story when you look at the embassy, the Israeli embassy, when there was a unanimous motion that was passed.
November 2023, and we're still what?
Well, we're 2 years
going into November 2025, and nothing has been done.
So, how much has civil society become a stronger arm than that of government?
I think, you know, watching, we saw what happened with the global Sumud Flotilla. The fact that the Italians were just like, no, and their government is a right-wing government.
Yeah,
and,
Maloney.
And they were forced to actually send like boats to naval ships to come and protect us. And eventually when they were releasing, they were very quick at releasing them. You know, one of the people in my, one of the women in my cell was like a 78-year-old from Italy, you know. When you're looking at this, we actually have the pressure. We are able to... Local elections are coming very soon. We need to get into a space of saying, listen, if you say genocide is a big word, you don't deserve our votes, you know? It also means that maybe you're anti-Semitic because it means you also don't know about the Holocaust, you know? Sure. So I think this is the time, the only time that politicians ever listen to us is before elections. And I think we need to use it. to the fullest extent of the law. You know, we need to use our voices, we need to push, we need to say we need sanctions or deregistration of companies that are still sending coal to light up a genocide when they're not, maybe there's not even electricity in Mpumalanga.
I was going to say that because I know you've mentioned that a number of times. Also, Glencoe, of course, big protests that have been happening there, and I've had many guests on the show that have been calling out Glencoe for who they are. Where does government step into this? Because I've been hearing one side saying, well, government can't get involved because Glencoe is a privately owned company, so don't really put government in there. But you've got the Department of Trade and Industry, which works hand in hand with Glencoe. So where do you find the balancing of this?
Who registers company? We register.
Yeah.
We say if a company is complicit on something, you know, if you could say that, or, you know, Cambridge Analytica needs to go in South Africa, we can certainly say Glencoe needs to go.
Sure.
We can certainly say we are deregistering Glencoe because they are guilty of this. We know, like, during our own apartheid, that there are companies that got deregistered, that got sanctioned in other countries, and we owe it to the globe, we owe it to the world that our 1994 moments happened because there was solidarity from the rest of the world, people boycotting and people sanctioning companies. So why aren't we doing the same? Where is our solidarity?
Zukiswa, in terms of Gaza right now, the restructure of it, unfortunately, when you call it for what it is, seems it's going to be an added colonial aspect to it, because we've mentioned the names Tony Blair, there's Jared Kushner, who's, of course, the son-in-law of US President Donald Trump. It doesn't seem as if, even though there's a ceasefire, and I think we are both happy that the killing of the children, the women, the elderly, the men is done, but this occupation continues. And I think people need to be wary of that, because in the occupied West Bank, settler expansions are continuing, even if Donald Trump has said no more settler violence. I don't think the Israelis are going to listen to him. And in Gaza, it is a neo-colonial setup when you come to think of it, because, again, you've mentioned it, and I agree with you, the Palestinians do not have a right in determining their future, and again, they've been discarded from it.
Absolutely. Listen, after Oslo, at the time of Oslo, there were about 100,000 settlers in Palestine. Despite the existence of Oslo, there are now over 800,000 settlers in what you call it. So you can't say, no, this is different. It's not going to be any different unless the Palestinians are involved. Also, can we please have our government stop talking about a two-state solution? There is only one state.
What's your take on that? Because everyone, when I keep on speaking to Turco, they keep saying it. The ANC. So here's my thing, right? I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, Zukiswa. The African National Congress has always said, the ANC, and they probably, out of all of them, have been a strong supporter. But when you listen to the EFF or probably the Pan-African Congress, they're saying one state. What is your take on that, Zukiswa?
Listen, there is only one state from the Jordan to the Mediterranean, water to water, river to the sea. And the reason is I would never understand how South Africans are okay. We're not okay with Bantustans.
Of course.
And essentially, Occupy West Bank and whatever, that is Bantustans. There is no two states. There is one state. If anybody doesn't like it, the idea of a one state, hey, you know what? You're from Ukraine, Benjamin. Go back to Ukraine, you know? But if you can play nicely
Poland.
Poland, whatever. But if you can play nicely with other children, then you can stay, you know? You know, again, these are also... We are also a country maybe that doesn't have a problem with even the existence of Orania, so maybe that's the reason why we don't have a problem with whatever. But no, there is only one state, Palestine, river to the sea.
One final question, Zukiswa. We've got 1 minute. What does Zukiswa do next? Would you go back on another flotilla? Would you send your money in terms of the restructuring of Palestine in a legitimate way? In 30 seconds, Zukiswa.
I'd actually just want to go to Gaza for a while and help rebuild it, but I don't want anything to do with any viceroy or whatever as if we're in the 19th century right now, particularly if they're British. They've destroyed Palestine and a lot of our countries for such a long time.
Zukiswa, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure as well. Thank you.
That's Zukiswa Wanner. She was a South African member of the global Sumud Flotilla. That's all we have for you. If you've missed this interview, you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel from myself, Ross Hospital, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.